Over the top of the blue house is my sister Linda's house. That was built. All of these houses trying to go through the same bank. Now her pastor started to build in that house over there. Below the white truck is my niece's house. That was my uncle's piece of property. My aunt's piece of property was nearby. So everybody's land was adjacent to the other's land. My smart mother. Yes, she was smart. I was in the courts, and she went and did what she had to do through the courts. My brother was going to shoot him. I told you how one person might do it one way, another may do it another way. When they went up against fighting my mother, who could not even walk from her door to where the black car is, the first black car, outside of her door. She was just that sick from the cotton mill and her lungs. My brother had no tolerance. My brother was just going to shoot him. You mess with my mom, you're going to get killed. That's the way it was. But how many know I knew that wasn't the way it needed to be. Judge Botiford won't remember my first time meeting him and his staff. I had to go get a warrant. I knew the law may not be perfect, but you got to do things the legal way. I was able to go up and get a warrant. Had to get a warrant against my uncle, who was, I had to get a warrant against my uncle. Had to put the no trespassing signs. My mother could not handle the stress. They were trying to build Ivy Terrace. My mother's house was in the way. They had already messed over me with the blue house, which was totally in the way. This piece of property was supposed to come all the way over there. It was at one time going to be a Publix built here. It was at one time going to be something else. It was always zoned where it could be a commercial something being built or apartments being built over here. My mother, in 1986, in 1986, I believe it was. Anyway, the papers are filed in the courthouse. The land that you see across the street was our cousin, one of the children of G.W. Felker's mother owned that. And they would will it to the children. The Pettys, Williva and Henry lived on the top of the hill right there. They got for sale signs over on that piece of property too right now. Williva and Henry lived there. Past that mailbox, John Petty and Catherine lived under the hill in between my other sisters and brothers' property. Past there was the Beavers. Past there was Miss Betsy Runner. Let me tell you how smart the old families were when it came down to land. The doctors had diagnosed my mother with the lung disease. My mother did not want her children fighting over land. And it was so interesting when the problem occurred with the blue house. The bank even went to my sisters, some of my brothers, some of my family, and tried to get them to stab me in the back. We'll sell the house to you for a little nothing. Will you take the house? They went to all of my blood family to go against me. My mother, 2 years before her death, I had never heard of this, went and got a She got one for Willie Henry. She got one for Miss Betsy Ronner, for John Petty and Catherine to sign. The papers read, and they are found in Cobb County. Because she was sick, she was in her sound, right mind. She knew what she was doing. A lot of folks have tried to fight my mother and say that my mother didn't do that. Yes, she did do it. She signed. She was trying to get Sidney. He didn't want to take. She didn't tell him why. She tried to get Sam. He didn't want to do it because Sam had bills. I couldn't do it because I was in the. My mother knew when I filed that lawsuit that I was serious. I was in the middle of a lawsuit, and it was pretty much sure that they were going to take everything I had. So my mother went, and this was a great woman. She signed everything she owned out of her name. Everything. She put the house in Suzanne's name. She put her insurance policy in my name and Barbara's name. She made us the benefit. My mother got her business fixed. So when the day of her death came, not only did the children not know that she was as sick as she was, they didn't know that she had signed everything out. Willie Petty signed. She was in her right mind. Old folks stood together. John Petty Catherine signed. My mother knew what she was doing. She was in her right mind when she signed those papers. They went to Wilkes Finance and got it did. Notarized, signed, filed it in the Cobb County Courthouse so that nobody could go up against my sister Suzanne, and that we had better sign that money over to pay for her funeral, because it wasn't our money no way. I wouldn't take no dead folks' money. She went to Betsy Ronner, and Miss Ronner signed off that she was in her same mind. She knew to get all that land out of her name, out of her, off of her, because God knew my mother was finna leave here. My mother knew, but my mother didn't tell not a soul. I've had real bad mixed emotions over my mom holding that. Her and God, I guess, was big enough to handle that. I know they were, but we would have been there. We were there. I was with my mother the night before. I was with her the first night. Gwen and Jeff was with her the night before her death. And May came in the morning when they took her into the ICU. We had taken turns. Susan, everybody was taking turns. It just so happened that it was my turn first. Gwen and Jeff turned second. And May was to relieve me. I can remember my mom telling me, go to work, Mary. Okay, my sister Virginia walked in. Now, my sister Virginia was going to fight that doctor. But the doctor had a privilege and a right to her client. My mother told the doctor, don't tell him. And the doctor couldn't tell the family that my mother was as sick as she was. That's a doctor-client privilege. So my mother took the property out of her name, put it where she wanted it to go. I don't even know how my mother got around to do all this stuff. But you know what? Them old folks knew how to do things. So that is what took place with all of this property. To our commissioner, Lisa Cupid, You're a real estate attorney. Your husband is too. On top of that, you are black. Yeah, I'm gonna go there. I don't agree. Believe in hurting the people. I don't believe in, we could make a lot of money. I could have made a lot of money in my lifetime. They wanted this piece of property to really extend over to where the blue house is. First, it was going to be a public supermarket. Then they talked about houses. When we're asking the county to show us the site plan of what is going to be built out here, I've told you some of my story so you can see from the 60s what our fight has been. Not to let progress go up, but just do it right. What if they would have said, we're going to build the stadium, got everything proved, showed you site plans, and then built a supermarket? That's kind of like what it was over here on this piece of property. At first, it was going to be a Publix, but the Publix went over on Bankhead or Veterans, Mapleton Parkway, Veterans, whatever the name of the street is. My house stood in the way of the driveway. That's why you see two driveways there. My heart is at peace. Hey, Suzanne. I'm going to come down there and look at the football game. So this is the piece of land. That's the young girl, by the way. My mother left the house too. There wasn't no lawsuits between her. She didn't have the issues that some of us had. Okay, she needed a clear deed where nobody could fight it. And she was in her right mind with what she did. Up on this piece of land right here. Think about 28 years. That's when that lawsuit was put in down there. If you even tried to follow through the lawsuits. So in between my work with working civil rights, I was also having to have to cope and deal with our property on Ivey Road. The property that old settlers worked for to keep and hold in the family. The people have a right to know what actually is going to be built up here. If you have hearings for everything else, you should have a hearing so that you got subdivisions around here. You see the trees, but subdivisions are around here. I'd rather see them build a senior community. But it should be done right. You got a plan for grading. Okay, to say, I'm going to do what I want to do. But that resident, I'm still saying it 28 years later, have a right to know what's going to be built on this land. Our county should have a site plan, which is as of Friday, October the 21st, it was not there. The residents have a right to ask, what is that site plan? Can we see it? Can we get a copy of it? They can't. There is none. I hope you enjoyed this piece of history. I'm not bitter. I'm not sad. I worked court yesterday and was mighty happy because my soul was set free just from learning the history. You all be blessed and have a wonderful day.